reaction from the field. They were waiting. The last man to react, of course, is the teammate of Vandenberg, Steiber. He's not going to help anybody catch him. He's just going to go across the gap on the back wheel of Caruso, or is he? No reaction again. Sat up. Lamertink has been neutralised, and this rider is continuing to ride on. It's an interesting move here at 25 kilometres to go. It's still a long way, and we've got the last 11 uphill. Simon Vandenberg started off with some very, very good results, so much so he was appointed the team leader for the start of the classic season on the Amiga Pharma Quick Step, but then didn't quite work out. He started to slip away again, but he was second in the classic race Het Nieuwsblad, which used to be known as Het Volk or Ghent in Belgium, at the end of February, and he was second in that race, so a good start of the season for him. Staying close to the left of the road, so he gets confused with the trees. They can't see him so easily. Now this may have been the chat they had a little bit earlier on to decide who would attack first, because when you've got two teammates up front, the way to try and break your rivals is to attack them and make them chase you, and then you attack when they catch up, if they catch up. He's starting to push this out now. Here's the peloton swinging beneath the freeway. Still Saxo Brandt. The gap has come down from 67 to 53 seconds. This is going exactly to plan as far as the peloton is concerned, because as the big mountain approaches, they could well be all together, even though there's a great show of defiance here. 43 seconds, continuing to close quite rapidly now. They're just onto the slopes of this little third category climb here. 5 points for the first man over the top, and it looks like it's going to be Vandenberg, and he won't really care because he hasn't got any points in the King of the Mountains until today. All in the favour of Caruso. He won't need the 12 points for winning the stage on the mountain today, because now he can safely feel he has won the King of the Mountains. Of course, he's got to finish the 5th day of the race tomorrow, but there's no mountains on the route. And just sat at the back of the race now, Moreno Hofland. So the peloton have swept up the breakaways, because straight to the back has gone the Belkin rider. Lamertink was caught a little bit earlier. I think when we get a next view at the front of the race, we'll find that there's only one rider in front. They're 100 metres from the top of the penultimate climb of the race and the day. Just looking over his shoulder here is Martin Kohler from Team BMC. He might be required at the front very shortly, because they've got Matthias Frank and Dominik Nertz of Germany as likely winners if they can climb clear on the mountain. 20 kilometres to go now. The last little up before we start the steady road to the climb to the finish. And that is the entrance to the park, the natural park here. You can come in here, you can walk for miles through these mountains, but they do recommend that you walk in company, because you can also get lost up there. And we're heading now steadily towards the summit. It starts fairly shallow. In fact, it doesn't appear to be climbing for a little way, but very soon you will notice that it does climb quite steeply. The actual finish line sits at just over 1,000 meters. The mountain itself tops out at just over 2,000 meters. Steiber is going to see the road first. Well, he's seeing the timing board. I wish we could, but I think it's about half a minute, or is it even less than that? And there he is, just going off our picture to the left, and there's the confirmation, 17 seconds. So, unbelievably, but this peloton is wiping out the day's attackers to perfection, leaving the showdown on the mountain, the one mountain they've talked about for 4 days that would decide the Tour of Beijing this year. The first time we've had a mountaintop finish. And after a week or so of it being shrouded in mist, it is a perfect day to bring the race up here now. The sun is even breaking through and the clouds gone completely. It is cold. Probably around about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius at the moment. Stein Vandenberg looks to be tiring just that bit, and that is probably why, because the field now are all welling up behind. Different teams will form now, different to the teams and the riders that we've seen over the first 3 days of the race, because they're no longer looking to mass up with the sprinters for the finish. They're looking now to bring their climbers to the fore. There is the lace of road. Well, you visibly saw Stein Vandenberg then ease back on the pedals when he took a look at the bunch. There's no point in killing yourself with the mountain still in front. He's back pedaled a little bit here now, allowing them to come up. Well, it's a free-for-all now, and it'll be interesting to see the team tactics which are deployed. Belkin on the right, looking for Robert Hessink. He's the tall rider near the back of them. The Movistar team, they've got candidates too. Luke Durbridge, champion of Australia, on our left, making the early running for his team, Orica Greenedge, and that will be likely for Cameron Meyer, former Australian champion. Life at the back is not so pleasant for these riders now, and when we always cut to the back for the last 3 days, we've seen number 81, the number of Dan Martin, but not today, because he's up near the front. He's waited for this one climb to play his cards. We'll see what he can do. I must say they are ripping into this mountain incredibly quick. They're still riding on the highest gears here on the big chain wheels. Very, very quick, and it's preventing anybody getting off the front. A lot of those riders will explode halfway up the climb, but will they leave their climbers in the right position? That's the question. Josh van Emden is the rider on the tail of the peloton. He was off the back a little while ago, but he's come back up to the group. Just in front of him is Bosic, but he's a sprinter. He won't be seen at the front today now. Look at the temple. This is not the temple by the finishing line. This is the temple halfway up the climb. And one does pose the question, how on earth do they know where the temples, how they build them? Jin Yandong, struggling just a little bit now, but he rides for the World Tour Argus Shimano team. There are 2 Chinese riders on this team. And that's a sign of the progress of China in the world of cycling. Steve Cummings, the British rider, he's been a track medalist in the Athens Olympic Games. He won a silver medal. Now here he is in the road racing on streets. He was also in the Beijing Olympics when he rode the time trial. Little bit of attack. Now, is this going to start the ball rolling here as the attacks have started? The road will start to get a little bit steeper now. Riders will need to take a closer order. Looks like it might be Cameron Meyer who's trying to get clear of the field, but it's a bit early for Meyer to make a move. I doubt it's his Cameron Meyer. The other man could be Christian Meyer. As the field continue now and splitting up as they start to drop off the back of the field. Well, the tempo had to tell sooner or later. And Caruso, one of the riders, saying goodbye to the lead group, but knowing and safe in the knowledge he is the king of the mountains. This is Meyer at the front now, driving forward, but the field are bringing them back. And the field is down to maybe 40 riders, that's all, as the tempo continues. Basso, not too far away, perhaps trying to relive his halcyon days when he was the winner of the Giro d'Italia. He's the rider just peeping in that lime green jersey. There's a little picture of the road. The riders thankfully won't see that road, but the helicopter can, and the beautiful countryside which abounds here, twisting our way steadily to the summit. The road to nowhere. Everybody in the race here riding up towards the limit now as they try to keep the pace as high as possible for as long as they can before they have to swing off. Oh, we go further back down the road. The red jersey has succumbed to the last mountain of the race, and Nasser Bouani now will have to concentrate on winning the green jersey as the most consistent daily finisher, because he still leads that competition. By dropping off, though, he'll lose his red jersey to somebody in this group. He'll also lose his white jersey as the top young rider in the race. Well, Belkin, the Dutch team, had a very, very good Tour de France, with riders not here in this race, but certainly Robert Hessinkes, third man down, gritting his teeth. He's in a perfect position to springboard an attack. Team Sky also moving their men up in David Lopez and also in Joe Dombrowski. But we are hearing, in fact, that Richie Porte of Team Sky also, who was a fancied man, has retired from the race during the day. So that's a little bit of a surprise. Just look behind the race now and the devastation that's been caused by the high speed of this group at the front. Probably down to 35 riders maybe at the moment. The champion of Spain is about 10 riders down the line. Jesus Herrera. Jan Polank of Lampre also here, a Slovenian. Corkscrewing their way up to the summit now. All under the impetus here of the riders from Belkin. Really doing a lot of the work here. Wilco Kelderman on the front. Those two riders from Team Sky. Sky said that they were hoping to help either Joe Dombrowski, possibly Lopez, or possibly one of their other riders to get up here, but we've lost Richie Porte, so it looks like they're gambling now on Lopez and Dombrowski to make a move. They've always said, the riders, the man that wins today wins the Tour tomorrow in Beijing, because there's no mountains, but there's got to be a time gap. And Movistar was saying at the start they thought the bonuses would still play their part in deciding the winner of this race, and that's why Intausti went out early today, snatched 2 seconds. Here comes an attack as we cut away. Unfortunately, somebody from Sky just made a move, and it looked to me as though it might have been Joe Dombrowski, and it is. Now what are they going to do about this? They've still got 3 riders up here, Sky. Adam Hansen moving up. Not a noted climber, but looking very strong today. The rider that was caught in sight of the finish again yesterday, the third Lotto man in 3 straight days to be caught. Only a few kilometers from home. Well, the tempo continues here, and this is what is happening at the back of the race. Now we've lost here the top Chinese rider, Yi Sheng, number 161. Quite a famous athlete in Beijing. Jesus Herrera, the champion of Spain, the 4th man, has come up. Adam Hansen getting a bit itchy here, and he's going to give it a go. Now there may not be a reaction here. Hansen is not a noted mountain climber, but he is a great bike rider. He's ridden the 3 Grand Tours this year and finished them all. He did the same last year and said he hopes to do the same next year. So he puts in a nice little move here. Pedaling nice low gear, comfortably and quickly, good cadence. This might disrupt the plans of some, because Hansen wouldn't be a marked rider. Queenslander, comes from the coast of the Coral Sea. Now riding here in the center of the mountain of Miaofeng. Looks like we've got a BMC boy, Marco Panotti, coming across, who's ridden a very strong race for his team here. Italian time trial champion. Hansen knows he's coming, but is he going to wait for him? Continuing to wind the way up this mountain. It's getting steeper all the time, continues to do so, right up until the line. Looks like Panotti has contacted Hansen. Skyrider chasing across the gap. Looks like we also have a rider from Euskaltel now trying to cross the gap as well. Spanish riders will come into their own today, having had been beaten into submission on the flatlands. This is their playground. Marco Panotti, Adam Hansen, Joe Dombrowski. Three riders, but the peloton still holding tempo. They're not clear yet. Well, Panotti really giving us a fine show this week. The only race he's won this year is his country's national time trial championship. And last year he really pulled off a great coup when he's Italian, and he won the last stage of the Tour of Italy, which was a time trial. Adam Hansen, Joe Dombrowski, three of them together. The gap still not significant. They really can't lift the pace much quicker than they are climbing this mountain. But the white jersey down there, and is on the wheel of a Rada, is in fact Rui Costa. He's dropped down a little bit now as the field has closed in, but Jesus Herrada is the man who's done the damage and closed it right down, just checking to see who's still with him. The fact he's doing so much work here, he's not riding for himself, he's riding for either Rui Costa or possibly Benyat Inzausti, who is still in that group as well and has not been seen at the front. He's just gone forward with the splits. We continue to zigzag our way up. The riders can now see the angle of those slopes on their left shoulder here at this point, as they'll see the road continue to climb. And another attack. Jan Bakeland's going. Another man who's enjoyed his finest season. First Tour de France, first stage win in the Tour de France, and then the first Maillot Jaune for him as well. That all came on the back of finishing third in the Belgian Road Race Championship, so he's enjoying himself. Held the race leading the Tour de France for 2 days, which started on the island of Corsica. Well, I must say, Jesus Herrada is unbelievable here. He's coming away from the field again, and just look how thin that peloton is now. And trying to catch up with Bakelands. There's an Omega Farmer quick-step rider trying to cross the gap as well. And the only man I can imagine that might be is Tony Martin, because I don't think there are too many quick-step riders left here. Can't quite see his face at the moment. Bakelands, Herrada, he looks like Martin. It is Martin, so there's three of them. And the other Martin right behind him now, Dan Martin, followed by the world champion in white, Rui Costa, at last getting the chance to show off his rainbow jersey, the right of a world champion. And an attack here, 5 kilometers to go by Tony Martin. Dan Martin, no relation of course, one's Irish and one's German, as Dan Martin now takes the front. Keeps the tempo high, reduced the field down to about 15 riders here. Martin just checking out. Fine stage winner in the mountains in the Tour de France this year for Martin, and also in April winner of the doyenne of all of the classic races, Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Classic race which began in the late 1800s. Only 2 Irishmen have ever won that. The other one, Sean Kelly. Attacked by David Lopez. He's been sat in that peloton for Sky, watching his young teammate set the pace. Now he's decided to give it a shot. Got straight away a good gap, and this is a rider who is a very dangerous climber indeed. Won stage 6 of the Eneco Tour this year, which was in August, and then he came over to the United Kingdom and finished 4th overall in the Tour of Britain, so he's got the form, and Bacalance is coming after him here. Lopez absolutely flying up this mountain as we continue to run out of time now. Jan Bacalance crossing the gap, thinks it's worth a go. The spectators can actually see the riders passing through the village now from the top of the mountain, but they're still about 4 kilometers before they see the finishing line, which is up to the left shoulder of the riders on the escarpment. Well, Bacalance has crossed the gap, but how much energy has he taken to cross the gap? He's can't quite close the wheel, the gap on the wheel of David Lopez here. There's the view from the actual temple of Miao Feng. As our camera situation looks down, that's the village where the riders are, but they go right around the edge of the mountain to come back up towards the finish. Stunningly beautiful situation. A lot of the club cyclists in Beijing come and ride this road fairly often, but very soon the snows will be here. 2 riders still together through the trees. Remember, the vast majority of the riders, the first 45 riders in this race, separated by only 20 seconds. And now, as Martin lifts the pace again, those 2 leaders have been given 20 seconds gap. That's alarm bells for the only man to have won this race in the past. For the last 2 years, it's been Martin here who's won the event. He tried yesterday to slip the pack and steal a lead. It didn't work out for him. He didn't expect to be in the mix today, but he is right now. Bacalance going through, recovered from the chase to catch up with David Lopez, prepared to try and pull his pace. Martin swings over. Michael Rogers on the left now, playing his cards. The Australian on the Danish Saxo Tinkoff. Now an attack. It looks like Pinotti's gone again. Dan Martin is following him. Everybody giving their all here, but can they last? That's the big question. Lopez looking over his shoulder. He must be feeling the pace a little bit. It's a bad sign when you look over your shoulder. You want the confidence you're pulling away, and frankly they're not. Bentancur, the Colombian climber, now making his move at 3 kilometers to go. All uphill, it doesn't ease at all. It looks to me as though David Lopez has lost a little bit of his impetus here, and he may have missed that little, because of the corner, the fact that the riders have just popped round it, so they're pulling them back very quickly. Well, this gap is slowly coming back together. It looks to me as though we've got Dombrowski down now. I'm not too sure if it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Take a look at this angle. No, Lopez on the left is still Martin. Colours look black instead of blue, but there we are. Martin has come across the gap, checks to see what his gain is, joins the back wheel of Bacalance. Pinotti has joined, Rui Acosta is there. The field is steadily regrouping. Ivan Basso in the lime green, Michael Rogers. This is incredible, everybody battling and every second really still counting in this race. They haven't managed to open up any gap. You could throw a blanket over these riders in the overnight positioning in the race, so they know they only have to prize a second or two to take the lead to win the Tour. Now it's the world champion giving it a big move for Movistar again. As Rui Costa goes, Martin chasing everything now into the slipstream of the world champion. And the rider who's moved up behind now is not Bentancur, but his teammate Romain Bardet, who rode his first Tour de France this year and finished 15th overall, a real talent for the future. Rui Costa's had enough. He's swung away. He's left Martin on the front. Bardet in second. Ivan Basso is third. Lopez not out of it. Moves on the right. picks up the wheel behind of him is Rui Costa. And we've still got Dominic Nertz up here as well for Team BMC, the German rider. Well, each one of these attacks has thinned out the leading group, but now they've slowed down. There's something like 8 riders going to rejoin this group, or are they? Because somebody's gone from the front, and this is Benyat Intowski who's gone. And it's a well-timed attack, and there's no reaction. They've left Martin on the front. Nobody's come around him. He's looking over for some help. Now, this is a planned move by Movistar, a move which was planned before the start today for sure. Intowski went out on the hunt for a small bonus, went back to the peloton. Now he's launched an attack at 2 kilometers to go. David Lopez is coming after him. Lopez recovered from that long attack. He's done well to mark Intowski, who had a brilliant Giro d'Italia this year. He wore the pink jersey, their leader's jersey, for one day. He also won a stage of the race. He's not a big race winner, but he's a very strong climber. And he seems to be the man that Movistar have placed their final eggs in the basket today. And he's gambling now. Rui Costa's on his team, but Costa's back in the peloton. Just checking in the progress again. Kicks again on these corners are very steep as they come around these corners. He's looking for the kilometre to go. There's the gap from the helicopter. That's Lopez, is the second rider on the road. Trying to find the shortest way around the apexes of the corners here. He won't actually see the finishing line, but he has seen the marker for 2 kilometers. He's now looking for the marker for 1. He's about 1,200 meters or so from the finish, I would think. The corner's right on the left of our picture there. You could just about see the buildings through the mist as the sun starts to set behind the mountain. This is David Lopez, looks over his shoulder now. Every time he senses he's slowing down, he kicks out of the saddle again. He's pinned his whole day on this move, and in fact one could say his whole race, because it's the first time we've mentioned his name since the race began. If he wins to the top with any time gap at all today, his time gap overall should be enough to win the race tomorrow in Beijing, and that's got to be his inspiration right now. Lopez being rejoined by a labouring chase group led by Intowski's teammate Rui Costa. Dan Martin on his back wheel. The fact he keeps looking over his shoulder means he hasn't got much more left in those legs. Same could be said though for David Lloyd here. 1 kilometre to go, 1,000 metres to the line for Benyat Intowski. Well, I must say, David Lopez has given his all on this climb. He's really tried to get rid of the group, but it hasn't worked for him yet. And we're not too sure whether it's worked for this rider either. But he's hoping. 800 metres, still coming. Being chased by Dan Martin, Rui Costa behind. They may have allowed this man just a little bit too much of a lead, because the hesitation, if you hesitate so near the end at such a high speed chase, even a second, it makes the difference. Racing to one of the best wins of his career here. I'm sure he'll call his great victory in the Giro d'Italia earlier this year his finest win, but this is going to go down in the books as the big one. The last World Tour race of the year, 500 meters to go. Benyat Intowski, the first ever mountain top finish in the Tour of Beijing. And he's got to keep those legs turning for just approximately 400 meters now. And Rui Costa has come up alongside, the world champion has come alongside David Lopez. Is he going to chase down his own teammate here? I think that was Dan Martin just ahead, because this is the leader. 300 meters to go. And it is Dan Martin who's got away from the other two. He's gone past, we didn't see him past Lopez. At the last determined moments of the Irish rider here for Garmin Sharp, as Dan Martin tries to steal the show. Has he left himself enough time as he goes around that corner? He's about 50 metres less, 20 metres behind Intowski. Intausti is looking for a 10-second win bonus, but he's tiring quickly. Martin is coming from Ireland. A final effort by Martin, but a final kick too coming from the Spanish rider. And Martin has given up. He'll be second here as Intausti gets the stage win. The all-important 10-second bonus, 6 seconds bonus for Martin. And third place for David Lopez. He gets 4 seconds. And then fourth place over the line here will be Rui Costa, the world champion, followed by Romain Bardet and Tony Martin completing the top 6. Well, what a race up the mountain that turned to be. As the riders continue to come in now, Jan Bekelens has come in, so too has Robert Hessing. Ivan Basso has crossed the line. That's Jan Polank of the Lamprey team. Dominic Nertz just behind him. Wilco Kelderman crossing the line there. And about completes the first 20 or so riders over the line. But there's no doubt about the win. Movistar came out with a plan, and nice of Dan Martin there to say to him, well done. He chased him right to the line. Look at this here. That's when Dan thought, that second kick has finished me off. He wasn't going to be beaten today, Beñat Intausti. This was his race for sure, and well deserved it was too. A terrific attack near the end. Remember, he was in the early leading group. He went out front, snatched 2-second bonus, and that's going to be important. He was right. This race remains a matter of seconds. As we look at the stage result, confirmed as we called it, 3 seconds behind comes Martin. 4 seconds is David Lopez. 6 seconds, Rui Costa. Let's hear now from the winner.
Buena a esta premio tan fantástico. ¿Cómo te sientes después de una fuga tan espectacular?
Bueno, eso, gracias, sobre todo muy contento, ¿no? De haber conseguido la etapa y con ello pues el maillot de líder también, ¿no? Era un día clave, importante. De salida ya he cogido 2 segundos de bonificación en un sprint intermedio, pero bueno, importante era hoy aquí con Rui Costa conmigo intentar ganar la etapa y también la general, y bueno, hemos conseguido y muy contentos personalmente y para el equipo Movistar Team también.
Muy bien. ¿Y qué tal con el equipo? ¿Todo bien? ¿La sensación en general aquí en China, cómo os parece?
Sí, muy bien, ¿no? Ya es para nosotros, para mí, la segunda vez que estoy aquí y bueno, un poco diferente todo, pero bueno, está muy bien la carrera, muy bien organizado y además pues hemos conseguido resultado bonito, importante y contentos.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Enhorabuena.
Well, while we're watching the interview there, he thanked his team and also the way they rode for him today, and he team's second visit here to the Tour de Beijing. Here comes the arrival of the former leader in Nansa Buani at 150 metres. He'll lose about 16 minutes. We'll probably see the clock as he comes under the banner. In no hurry now. He will keep his lead though in one of the competitions. He led in 3 before the start of the day. He loses the young rider's white jersey. He loses the race leader's red jersey, but he keeps the green jersey as leader of this race on points, and that was his main target. The 2 days in red I think he'll see as a bonus. And look at the clock on the left, 16 minutes and 40 seconds. He's finished today behind. So the race no longer a battle of seconds, at least as far as he is concerned, but it's still only a few seconds separating the overall leaders. Here they are as we go to our final stage tomorrow. Dan Martin is now second at 10 seconds, David Lopez at 13, the world champion at 18 seconds, and Romain Bardet, the new young rider, leader in the white jersey, 24 seconds equal with Tony Martin. So the red jersey again changing hands, and this time I think it's probably for keeps. Tomorrow it should be a winner's jersey for Beñat Intausti, but for tomorrow a big day for him. He races on the streets of the city of Beijing. Don't miss out on the grand finale of the final World Tour event of the year, as now a Spanish rider takes us home tomorrow. Till tomorrow, I'm Philip saying...